Hello, I'm John Bomarito, and here's another playlist designed for your Sunday morning or whenever you want listening pleasure. There are a few new songs on the list this week from Ray LaMontagne and the War and Treaty, a couple of silly songs, and some great singing overall. Starting things off this week is the resilient Mike Peters. I recently watched the documentary about him, The Man in the Camo Jacket it's called. It's mostly about his journey through 3 bouts of cancer, specifically leukemia. He is a fighter for sure, and I wish I had his strength. The lyric from the song, Strength: someone write me a letter, I need to know I'm still alive. Someone give me a telephone call, I need to hear a human sound. Someone open up the door and let me out of this place. I've been caged up for oh so long, I don't know if I'm living or dying. Ugh. So perfect for these times. The acoustic version isn't quite as powerful as the regular album version, but you get the message, and if you want to explore more about Mike Peters' life, The Man with the Camo Jacket. Up next, something from the former Michigan residents, Lindsay Lou and the Flatbellies, called The Power. They now make their home base in Nashville, Lindsay and her husband. Lindsay is part of the Sweetwater Warblers, and it appears she got tired of waiting for salons to open. With all the social unrest in the world, she revived this one for a recent online show, and I had a chance to see her new, very short haircut. I also had to include this powerful message of the song called The Power. Are you struggling with the new normal? Well, Ray LaMontagne is back with something to soothe your soul. His voice is so unique, and I'm so glad to hear Ray back in this mood. His last couple of records didn't quite have this feel, and I'm really happy to hear him sing this one called We'll Make It Through. Speaking of getting through something, this song called Through the Barricades was written by Spandau Ballet's chief songwriter Gary Kemp after a member of their crew was killed after returning to Belfast after one of the Spandau Ballet tours. Tony Hadley, the lead singer of Spandau Ballet, takes it on here solo and acoustic. Somehow the song came out with a Romeo and Juliet feel. Originally released in 1986, I only heard it then as a love song for two people who couldn't be together for some reason or another, a la Romeo and Juliet. You can hear it however you like, but don't ignore that great vocal from Tony Hadley, somebody who I used to wish I could sing like. Fifth on the list, Ypsilanti's Chris DuPont. He recently contributed to the Ark's Family Room series with this beauty called Holding It Together. He mentions at the beginning how much he misses live music. I miss live music too, Chris. I'm trying to hold it together until I can see people I want to see again. I don't often get nervous when I have guests in the studio with me, but the first time I interviewed Mary Fall in the studio, I was worried more than nervous that I wasn't going to be able to contain that voice in my studio. She is not classically trained, believe it or not, and I discovered her as the lead singer of a band called October Project in the early 90s when I still worked in a record store. I hope she's right with the chorus, everything's gonna be all right, because I've heard those words before, and it's still not quite all right. Frank Turner, believe it or not, if you've heard this song before, is an avid fan of metal and punk music. It was Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska album that turned him from a hardcore punk rocker into the music he makes today. The song Be More Kind has a message for the ages and will never be out of style. One of the people in my life who is always kind to me is Rochelle Clark. I have a review of her solo EP, her first release away from the Pottersfield, a band that she's the lead singer for. It's on my blog, so seek it out and seek out this release called In Time. It's another great voice in this music community in Michigan, and Wish Me Well, I think that's my favorite one on there. Before I stumbled into the solo work of Raul Malo, he had a successful career as the lead singer of a country-ish band called the Mavericks. They weren't on my radar, not really a big country fan, until one day I saw Raul solo at the Ark when he sang a cover of J.D. Souther's hit You're Only Lonely and other songs from what was then going to be his forthcoming album of the same name in 2006. I was hooked. Where has this voice been all my life? Imagine my surprise when this voice became something my father and I bonded over so late in my life. Better late than never, I guess. I've always said that Raul was a PBS special away from being as big as Josh Groban or Michael Bublé. Enjoy this one called Lucky One. Something older from Michigan's Trey Simon called Hard to Be, also on this week's playlist. I wanted to find something to highlight this golden voice, and this one does the trick. Explore more if you like what you've heard here. Trey Simon is a gem for sure. Michael Kiwanuka was up next. He's quite popular in the UK, and this was the first song of his I heard way back in the early 2010s, called I'm Getting Ready. He's still out there singing and standing up for what he believes in, a little bit more political stuff these days. The station I work for, I think I work there, includes his newer songs into rotation. There's just something classic about Michael Kiwanuka and what he does. We heard from Ari Hest again this week. It's June. June is the name of the song, and June is almost half over, believe it or not. Ari was supposed to be playing venues near me supporting his new album, Against the Sky, which is excellent. I include this one because A, I love Ari's voice, and B, June is the month of the wedding anniversary of two of my friends who are massive Ari fans, Stan and Barb. So happy anniversary, Stan Garfield and Barb Hayes. I don't know how you are feeling these days, but me, like the song says, a rubber room might be nice. An early performance of this Bare Naked Ladies song from one of my top albums of all time, Gordon, is Ed Robertson of Bare Naked Ladies doing solo in what appears to be his apartment way back when. It's fun and a bit silly. Speaking of a bit silly, they could have been as big as Bare Naked Ladies and were equally entertaining live for sure. Moxie Fruvis followed in the footsteps of the ladies. They definitely had rabid fans on this side of the border. We were called Fruheads on both sides of the border. My friend Barb, not the same Barb I mentioned a bit ago, was one of the Fruheads before we met. It's good to have that as a common bond in our friendship. This one called I Love My Boss, something to cheer you up on today's playlist. Forget the silly lyrics of this next song and just listen to the melody for a minute. Jonathan Coulton's Skull Crusher Mountain done acoustic. However, I do love the silly lyrics, but that chorus is melodically brilliant in my opinion. Jonathan does mostly brainy, nerdy music, but recently he released a covers album called Some Guys. It contained as faithful of a rendition as he could do mostly by himself of some classic soft rock hits of the 70s. It's worth seeking out. Next month on the Radical Revisions edition of the Acoustic Alternative Show, I'll include a fun cover from him, but don't miss out on the lyric of this one, Skull Crusher Mountain. The lyric that really grabs me, I made this half pony, half monkey monster to please you, but I get the feeling you don't like it. What's with all the screaming? You like monkeys, you like ponies. Maybe you don't like monsters so much. Maybe I used too many monkeys. Isn't it enough to know that I ruined a pony making a gift for you? Cracks me up every time. Only 4 years ago, the War and Treaty released an album when they were known as the Michigan-based duo Trotter and Blunt, but now you'll find them, from what I understand, spending time in both Albion, Michigan, that is, and Nashville. War and Treaty's song called Hustlin' included on this week's playlist from their forthcoming release. Brandi Carlile recently featured them on one of her online shows and really sang their praises. Up next was something from James Young, the lyric, I'm here to admit to you that you were my medicine. Oh, I couldn't quit. And I'm down on my knees again. Thank you for the happiest year of my life. Just nice stuff there. In the song, he also wants to build a time machine. I used to want to build a transporter, but maybe a time machine isn't a bad idea, going back in time a little bit before all this craziness. The 18th video in this 25 video set was from Simply Red, and it was called Fairground. I was recently playing the original, more dancey version of this song and said, boy, I really like this song. I wonder if there's an acoustic version of it. And lo and behold, there is. I hope you have someone you think of when Mick Hucknall sings, I love the thought of coming home to you. We heard from Everything But the Girl this week. Tracy Thorn and Ben Watt record as Everything But the Girl, and Tracy has one of those voices I never thought would disappoint. But it turns out some of her later solo records weren't as interesting to me as the stretch of music that they released as a duo between 1986 and 1996. This one called I Didn't Know I Was Looking for Love wasn't a big hit for them or anything, it's just a personal favorite of mine. Two from the band from Scotland called Texas. Before Ellen DeGeneres was a daytime TV host, she starred in a TV series called Ellen, you may recall that, and starting in 1995, her seasons 3 through 5 featured the song So-Called Friend as the theme song as performed by this band called Texas. I've been a fan of this band long before that, but I just finally tracked down this acoustic version of one of my very favorites of theirs on a promotional CD I tracked down, and I thought I'd make a video for it so you could hear it. And on that same EP was another song that I love from that band called I Don't Want a Lover, so I made another video. They are reportedly releasing a new album this fall. Texas will release their 10th album called High this year. Liz Longley has a new album coming out. It's kind of out, sort of, depends on if you paid for it in advance or not, but you can order it from her website. It'll be called Funeral for My Past. And this is an acoustic take of the title track of one of the best albums that will come out this year for sure. Liz is one of my favorite songwriters, and she never disappoints. The album version is brilliant, but I think this acoustic version beats the album version. It might actually have more feeling. I strongly encourage you to find all of her albums and buy each and every one of them, and then watch a charming show from your home. She's got a bunch of online shows to enjoy. How do I get so lucky to be able to claim Liz Longley as a friend of mine? Okay, you might find this weird, but I have a list of songs that I want played at my funeral. I do. I really do. In fact, I've already burned a CD of them just in case. This one Billy Mann wrote for his second album after losing his wife is a real tearjerker. He's released 2 excellent albums under his own name. They didn't get the attention they deserved, and then he switched gears to be a songwriter and a producer for other people. Maybe you've heard of some of the people he's worked with. Pink, John Legend, Celine Dion, Cher, Backstreet Boys, Sheryl Crow, Martina McBride? Any of those ring a bell? The bridge of the song has a lyric that chokes me up every time. How could any place be better without me? Ugh, I almost want to cry now. There are a few perfect acoustic-based albums, but Patty Griffin's Living with Ghosts is one of them. It was either this song, Let 'Em Fly, or Every Little Bit that made me a lifelong fan. I don't remember. I kind of remember hearing them at the same time on somebody else's radio program. I keep hoping she'll put out something as awesome as this album. It's not like any of the albums in her discography are bad, but this one will always be the one to beat. Guess like the old saying goes, if you love someone, set them free. If I let Patty just go, let her fly and do her thing, maybe she'll come back and deliver another perfect album. We'll see. And finally, maybe I shouldn't end on a sad note, but it was nice to explore something different from Howie Day on a recent playlist. Everyone knows his song Collide, but he's a deeper songwriter than the one or two hit wonder that most consider him to be. I can feel his pain in this one called No Longer What You Require, and good songs are meant to make you feel, in my opinion. And I'll try and do that for you again next week on another edition of Acoustic Alternatives. Thank you for tuning in.